Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome aboard to Animal Advocates Radio Voices Carry for Animals on Podbean Podcast, a live cast. And we're just going to go over a couple things before they start. I did have some issues this evening with my iPad and connecting into Podbean. It wasn't Podbean, it was my iPad, but I think I got it back to normal by doing a couple things on my iPad and rebooting and all that good stuff. So we're going to go on with the show, and I hope you all enjoy it. I want to go over a couple things before we do get started. My name is Debbie Dahmer, aka Mama Bear, and Mama Bear does care because she's on the air. And I'm just one to wait for the guest to come in because I told her I was going to. She said okay to bring her on at 8 and everything. So hopefully everything works out. And so I hope all of you, enjoy the show and we can all, come together as one and help all the animals out in need. Okay. But I do just want to go over a couple of things here. Um, this is a great celebration here, everyone. This is the 11th year anniversary for Voices Carry for Animals, and this is just wonderful. I mean, 11 years, and I'll go over a brief, how everything got started here, because 11 years is a long time, and I'm going to keep going here because that's what it takes. We cannot give up. But back in 2014, when I met Marty Oakley, TS Radio Network, I was getting interviewed by her for 2 hours for there was a record breaking 2 hour show for my father, who's deceased, George Dahmer, aka professional wrestler, Chief Whiteout. And he wrestled back in the late 50s to the early 80s, and may he rest in peace. And make it short, he was severely neglected in a nursing home that led to his death that was only supposed to be a short stay, and it was within like 63 days. So she had interviewed me on Blog Talk Radio, and we stayed in contact. That name on the show it's called George Dahmer, and then Chief Whiteout, WWF, abuse, neglect, and the death. But he was, it was so sad what happened, what this family went through, and what he went through is totally unacceptable. And he's not alone out there, everyone. So, I did this show with Marty Oakley. It was a great show. It was her back then, February 2014. It was a record-breaking show of her time, but I'm going from then, but not up to now. But it was shared in wrestling groups and elder abuse and animal groups. I mean, my page, everything. But I love and miss him so much. And my mother, she's listening this evening. Thanks, hey Moose, aka Pat Dahmer. Thanks for listening in, because this is wonderful. I love this. But anyway, if you want to check it out on that 2 hour show I did, I got a tribute to Marty Oakley, TS Radio Network, on my voicescarryforanimals.com website. There's a link that says Marty Oakley RIP, and also it's on Podbean website. Okay, my host, I got a tribute through there. So there's a link, to all my former shows with her on TS Radio Network, and there was 163 shows I did with her. So after February, we did this show. I stayed in contact with Marty Oakley, and so in June of 2014, I had mentioned to her, "Hey, how would you like to, do a pilot show for animals, in need and distress?" She said, "Yeah, we'll try it out." And so I named the show Voices Carry for Animals. You got the logo together and everything. We did the first show and it just blew up. Everybody, I mean, it was like, wow. So we said, we better not stop here, okay? And then we're out to the fifth show because I was co-hosting for like 5 shows, first 5 shows. And then she had contacted me on the phone. I was pulled over. She says, I have a surprise for you. I said, what's that? She said, Voices Carry for Animals is now your baby, okay? And I was like, wow. And I was in the car. The phone fell in between the seat and hung up on her. And I had to call her back. But it was so great. I mean, it was like, wow, this is unbelievable. So Marty and I stayed in contact, and I stayed her host for up till March of 2014, or I'm sorry, 2018. And she got, helped me to get Animal Advocates Radio together, Voices Care for Animals, and set it up and everything. And I was like, this is great. And so from then, it's been going strong. And thanks to all of you out there that's helping me out. This is great. I mean, all the former guests, all the callers. I mean, the listeners out there are making it a total success. And I love that. And it just cheers me up. 11 years anniversary. So, after that, Marty Oakley, she passed away April 1st of 2023, sadly. She was a super team player, a super friend, and I said, I'm going to keep these shows going. And she's the grassroots of all this happening, everyone. So we have to look at her and say, thank you, Morty. Rest in peace. Because if I didn't do that 2-hour show with her back with my father, the Voices Carry for Animals will never exist. So there was some positive come out of this and of all the negative. But I wanted to also, she was a true warrior. I called her a fireball. I called her a firehouse. I had all kind of names for her. But I wish you could see what's going on today with this Voices Carry for Animals. And a thank you to all of you fans of animal rights out there. Been with me a long time. And it'll still continue beyond American or McFarland. Thank you so much, and all of the fans of Animal Rights Group. A big shout out to a friend back in when it first started. Her name's Tasha Sansbury, and I wanted to wish her a happy birthday today because she has been a phenomenal friend, helps me out with all the graphics and logos. I mean, she's just wonderful. Big happy birthday out there to Tasha, because you're amazing, and hope your birthday is as great as you are. But I want to do one more thing here, Susan. I see you're in the chat room, and you did it, okay? But I wanted to give a special tribute and also in memory of all the former guests that have passed away here, okay, everyone. I got the dates they passed away. They were guests, and I have the Voices Carry for Animals number that they were on. But Deb Padavano, she passed away on August the 12th of 2024. She was on guest as Voices Carry for Animals number 7. Rest in peace, Deb. I was in contact with her, through phone and messages and everything. We got close over all these years, and I miss her so much. And her sister, Vonnie, I wanted to give a shout out to her. But Deb, rest in peace. And we got Cecilia Maida, founder of Paws Across America. And she sadly passed away August 26th of 2022. Founder of the Paws Across America, everyone. She has 50 groups on Facebook, and they're still running. Patricia Perry, and there's several of them admins that keeps these groups running. And Patricia Perry is one of my admins on the Voices Carry for Animals support group and also Animal Advocates Call to Action. Thank you, Patricia. And we miss you, Cecilia. Rest in peace. You know, she was on Voices Carry for Animals number 109. And Paws Across America with all their other admins that also have been, you know, on my show. We got Dave Hine. He passed away August the 10th of 2019 on Alley's Law in Florida. And rest in peace, Dave. He was trying to get that passed, but it never passed, and we should all go in and make sure it passes for him. Voices Carry for Animals 253. We have Roland Vincent. He was on my Voices Carry for Animals number 15. May he rest in peace. October 16th of 2022. He was the founder of the Animal Rights Leadership Council, attorney, animal rights activist, and campaign manager. Rest in peace, Roland. That's how Tasha Sonsbury and we connected from him. So we got a lot of teamwork and team players going on. Glory Gaston Marshall. She passed away October the 4th of 2016. She was on my Voices Carry for Animals number 5. And she was the founder of Calling All Angels of Fayette County. Rest in peace, Lori Gaston Marshall. We miss you so much. And we got some that weren't on the show, but they helped Voices Carry for Animals. I mean, it was amazing. But her name was Deb Miller, and she was an animal rights activist. She sadly passed away of February 1st of 2024. And she was working so hard. True warrior. I mean, helped me out so much. And I miss her. Rest in peace, Deb. Rest in peace, all of them. Then I wanted to, and I'm going to get started here in a minute. I wanted to make this podcast 11th anniversary to recognize the ones who passed away. We will not forget them. Gone, but it will never be forgotten. But I know a lot of you, this wasn't, you know, this activist right here that I'm going to bring up. Her name is Reagan Russell. She passed away June 19th of 2020. She was ran over by a semi truck driver, okay? And it was so sad and so heartbreaking. And the truck driver, he got found guilty of wrongful death, $2,000 fine. They was protesting she was with other ones, and they was just feeding, or, you know, giving water bottles to the pigs in the back, you know, in the truck, and trying to help them out. So, yes, and I looked, and I was like, why? I mean, this is so sad. She was killed instantly, and she was ran over by a semi truck. I mean, it wasn't like she got in the way. He could have stopped. But she was out there, a great voice for the animals also. But I want to all thank you all for tuning in this evening. If you're listening from the web, I know the show came an hour late, but if you want to join us in the chat room, you can. There's just a few steps that you have to take and create an account on podbean.com. Okay, click up in the right hand corner, create account, and you'll need, you know, your nickname or your full name, your email address, and create a password, and then you're going to create account. And then you're going to go and follow and Voices Carry for Animals podcast. Okay, it's just some few easy steps, and then you're in on the web. Okay, and make sure that you use all, you know, the same email addresses for the Podbean podcast app and web. Okay, so then you can go over to the Podbean podcast app and player, and you could free download that on Google Play or also Apple Store. Okay, and then all you're going to do there is follow Voices Carry for Animals podcast, and you're in on the app. You could join us right in the chat room. You can interact with a guest. This thing is awesome. Thank you all for joining in on this very important 11th year anniversary for my for this voices carried for animals. And I know that all of you that are super team players out there, we have to keep going. We have to work as a team, okay? So if you're listening from the web, I want to give you all a shout out, and you want to join us here, because you can listen to this show from the web or the app, okay? But you just can't interact with the chat room when you're on listening from there. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and bring my guest on. We'll probably be running the show over a little, some like I usually do. But Suzana Gartner, are you there? We are live and on the air. This is wonderful. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, welcome aboard. And
Thank
this is very special to me, okay? Because it's the 11th anniversary, and it's such an honor to have you on. I mean, this is great.
Oh, well, I'm
Yes.
honored to be on your show and to celebrate your success and all that you do to speak on behalf of the voiceless animals in our society.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? I look at you and what all you're doing, and all the listeners out there. Her name's Susanna Gartner. She's an animal advocate, an author, a voice for animals book, speaker, retired animal rights lawyer. She's doing it all. I mean, it's like, wow. But our topics is going to be why adopting animals from shelters and rescues is a better option. Susanna's personal experience becoming an animal advocate and animal lawyer, helpful suggestions and resource for all others who are interested for getting involved. So, Susanna, this is wonderful. Welcome aboard. Yes,
Thank you so
yes,
much. I'm so excited to be here and to share what I've learned along the way of loving animals and advocating for them. And I'd love to share with your viewers, listeners.
yes, of course. I mean, anything that helps out, because all I see in your book and everything, you could tell them where, that where they can, purchase it and share it, because the more voices out there that's, help, all of us helping each other, we are strength in numbers, everyone. I mean, it's amazing what we can all do out there, and not just all efforts count, right, Susanna?
Yeah,
This is great.
it does. It takes a village. I saw that a long time ago, and I mean that. It takes all of us making individual choices to make a difference for animals, especially those sitting in shelters that unfortunately get overlooked so many times.
Yes, they do, and everyone out there adopt, don't shop. Get out there into these shelters, even if you have to foster, right, Susanna? Because
Yeah.
it means so much. I mean, give them a chance. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a great suggestion, Debbie. Fostering, a lot of people turn a blind eye because most people are really good. They want to help animals. They want to do something. They just don't know what. Some people travel. Some people have situations where they can't, afford to have a companion animal in their life. And fostering, a lot of people don't know, can be just as powerful and impactful to help save an animal's life. When you foster an animal, a cat or dog in need, you're giving that animal not only a temporary home, but also a safe space for them to heal, to trust, to love a human again. And so, what a lot of people don't know about fostering, so I'm so glad you brought this up, Debbie, is that many shelters and even some rescues will cover the expenses. For example, the veterinary costs of taking care of that animal during that time. If someone has to travel, then they will take that animal in. And so it's again, it's helping bring space and love and tenderness for that animal and move them out of the shelter.
Yep. because I read all over, they're overcrowded. They're putting more animals down. There's over, a million a year healthy adoptable animals. We got to be, a better solution to all these problems. Everyone go, share them. I have a group, on Facebook, Voices Carry for Animals, support group, where, they put animals that are on death row and dogs, cats, whatever,
Yeah.
and share. You want to save an animal's life, press that share button, get that in newsfeed, because there might be, maybe two or three that ignore it, but then there will be some more that'll share it, right? That's the way
Absolutely.
I look at it.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, just take a little bit of time, meaningful time out there, because there's high inflation right now going on. A lot of people are handing in their pets because they can't afford them anymore because the vets bills went up, the food, the surgeries. So we have to keep these animals, in TLC homes, get them there. Adopt everyone, foster, whatever you can do, get the word out there because it means so much to them. They don't have a choice. They are depending on us to find them homes. They
Yes.
can't get, they can't get on the internet and go, hey, I need a home. Here's my number. No, or I'm at this, you can't do that. So we're their only hope to carry on out there because, I mean, they put down all ages. I mean, from puppies, the dogs, the kittens, the cat. I mean, all ages, and it's sad. And some of them don't even get a chance to live at all, hardly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yep.
It's really sad. And the reality is that I don't love talking about this. Nobody does, Debbie, right? We don't want to
No, no.
talk about millions of healthy adoptable animals that are euthanized, aka killed, because shelters are overcrowded. And then people, unfortunately, in our society, some people tend to overlook shelter pets. And let me tell you, so as a former director of a humane society, the Etobicoke Humane Society, so when I was there, I started just after the pandemic. And, I understand so many people had to go back to work. They were purchasing pets online, these designer pets. And the shelters are now overcrowded from those animals because they were returned. And these animals are just as lovely as the ones that you can find from breeders. And so I always say just give a chance, go and visit an animal at a shelter, and you may just fall in love.
That's right. Your new loved one or furry loved one or loved one is waiting at your nearest shelter. And if you hear somebody that's looking for a pet, tell them. Whether it's your neighbors or your family, your friends, coworkers. Just say, hey, you're looking here. Go to your nearest shelter, and I bet you that they will be happy. And it lets that animal in there, whether it's a dog, cat, whatever. They will seek a TLC home,
Yes,
and that'll make them real happy. I know the pets in this household have been adopted. Okay,
yeah,
or there was a couple one that was living on the streets, and the other one, some of them passed away because they were up there in age. One was
yeah,
a barn cat, but you give them that chance and make them so happy. I mean, I look at Sugar Bear, and she is had her since what 2019, and yeah, she adopted her. She looked at me with them looks some side eyes like, "Please take me home with you." She real, I mean, got me, bam,
yeah.
and yeah, she's a Alaskan Malamute, and
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I got her from the shelter, Humane Society,
Nice.
and I asked them, they was telling me a little bit of back. They think that she got, abandoned,
Oh,
because she said she had puppies, and I was like, oh, how cold could somebody be? It's like, whoa, because
no.
she came in as a stray, okay, and
Okay.
she was already in there for 3 weeks, but that's 3 weeks too long, because she was used to a home.
Yes, yes.
And when she got here, I said, "You never have to worry about being abandoned again." And never.
Oh,
Okay. Yes, and then cat, catty corner in the back. They moved and they took the three dogs and left the cat. Okay, her name was Kitty, and I was like, uh oh. So she always came over to the house and was fed over here. When
Wow.
they left, I looked around the house because it was empty. There was no food or no water for her, you know.
Aw.
And I was like, oh. So I looked at it and I said, Victory, his name used to be Hugs. He was adopted, okay? And I
Yeah.
named him Victory, and he does give hugs and kisses, okay? So I said, always going to adopt, no questions asked, because that gives them a TLC home. They're going to be happy and they're going to be content, they're going to be comfortable. They're
Yeah.
going to be free from, fear and anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Michelle, she just wrote Mama Bear to the rescue. That Mama Bear's rescue. So,
There's the
thanks,
next.
Michelle.
I'm reading the comments too. I love it. Shelter animals make the best pets and loyal to family, right? They are grateful after they get over their
Yep,
sadness. So yes, so that's the whole point is that we as humans are the responsible ones and we are by adopting these animals and not purchasing them from breeders and online, we are not supporting this whole cycle of disposable animals because if someone, unknowingly again, may want a particular kind of dog or cat, well, guess what? Most of them are available in shelters and or the rescues. And by supporting the shelters instead of adopting from breeders and pet stores, you're not unknowingly then supporting puppy mills. And puppy mills is another topic that I'd love to talk to the listeners about because people don't understand what happens in puppy mills and why it's so important not to support them, right? Because they're treated
that's right.
they're treated terribly. They're treated like objects, like disposable commodities. They're used for breeding. And so then what you do is you're contributing to this cycle of disposability. And, most people don't want to do that. They just don't know. And that's why we have to share this information. We have to be the voice, right? And
That's right. We have to be. We have no, what other, they won't have no hope to carry on without us, right? I mean, think
that's
about it.
That's right. That's right. They can't speak for themselves. I mean, in part of my book, when I had the experience of being a volunteer, so I mean, I've been volunteering since I was like a teenager, so a long time ago. And, that was my way of connecting with the animals themselves and seeing that they have individual personalities and souls and preferences. But more than that, what I realized was what a terrible place the shelter was for them and how it was sometimes a setup for failure because people come in, there's loud noises, it's a unfamiliar environment like you talked about Sugar Bear, right? How it's
Yep,
difficult for them. And so as humans, we have to be patient and loving and understand their perspective and try to help them in any way we can.
that's right. Because, I mean, if you look at them, they're helpless, defenseless, voiceless, and innocent. Just like the children and the elderly, If we don't fight for them, we have voices, all of us, and use it, be a positive impact. Not a
Yeah.
negative one. Do nothing. That's not good. And when you do
No.
something positive, it makes you feel good. And I know all you do, Susanna. I mean, I look at you and I was like, check you out, all that you do, and you're a retired lawyer too, and you're still at it, And
Oh
I say,
yeah.
hey, I give you a standing ovation. I mean, right
Oh,
there.
well,
Yes,
you
yes,
innovation. Please, Debbie, what you do is amazing. Your show and your listeners and it's all of us together. It's not just one, right? So it's all of us. And what I'd like to say is that I get asked by people, it's true, right? I live, breathe, love animals and will for the rest of my life. The thing is that a lot of people come up to me and I understand, they feel heartbroken, they feel overwhelmed. They're scared to go to the shelter because they know, a lot of people nowadays know the euthanasia is happening, red listing. For example, on my LinkedIn, it's constantly sharing these dogs that are being red listed. Red listed means they're on death row, right? So if someone doesn't,
yep.
And so I say that, people that see these photos and, feel overwhelmed, I feel your pain. I have that aching in my heart and my chest when I was a volunteer. And what got me through the night so I can sleep is I just feel like I'm doing something. Does that make sense? Like whatever it is, even just something small, like speaking with you, sharing what I've learned, no matter how small it is, it makes a difference. We can
That's
see
right. Yes,
people's,
agreed.
yeah,
All the way. Every effort counts. Like with just this podcast, I tell everyone, in order to see change, you got to take action. Okay, no questions asked. If you want to see that change, get involved. Whether calling your state representatives, get to know them. Sign petitions, ask them to co-sponsor bills that's already out there. You could be an author, or creator of a new law. You
yes,
just and get a sponsor, get
yeah,
your bill together and get it in the draft, and then it'll give you a bill number, and
yeah.
then you're going for co-sponsors, and then you're sharing it all over the place to get support. It's not that difficult at
It,
all.
you know what? It's
Yep.
really not, and I'm so glad that you brought that up. So, just sharing my own journey, which I wanted to do. So when I finished law school and I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, of course, I was always wanting to do something for animals, but in what capacity? So what I did was I was just this young kid and I was just like, I'm going to go to my municipal counselors and I'm going to try to find a municipal counselor who is animal friendly. And I was lucky. I found one and I said, can I please volunteer in your office? I'll do whatever it takes. Well, long story short, I ended up volunteering in his office. And after a couple of years, doing various things, we ended up passing municipal legislation for animal protection to reduce euthanasia rates in my town, which, seems like a big deal, but it's really not.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
you put in effort and you did it. You stood up to the plate and say, "I'm going to do this. I want to stand up for what I believe in, and I'm
Yes.
going to continue. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to be relentless, proactive, and optimistic." And that's
Yeah.
where we all got to stay.
Oh,
We cannot give up. Just like these, with the animals, we do need shelter reform. We do need some coming because what 3 to 5 days they put them down. If
yeah.
they're not, rescued or fostered or adopted, and that's no time for them. I mean, it's got to be scary for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. That,
Whoa, it's
whoa. That,
sad.
it's really sad and it's heartbreaking. And that's why I would say that, those kill shelters are the places to go first, right? Because those
Yep.
animals really are on a deadline. There's so many lovely adoptable animals. When I was a volunteer, I chose to volunteer at these, municipal shelters, these kill shelters, because I knew that they really needed the help, right? So
Yes.
by lending a helping hand, by getting those dogs out into foster, you're saving a life.
That's right. You're saving their life, and on top of that, you know how you're going to make that animal feel. I mean, just it's going to change them. They can't thank us, but
Yeah.
when we see their lives and futures changes for the better, we
Yes.
know we did what we had to do.
Yes.
And we the people have power in numbers if there is enough of us. If not, we're only spinning our wheels. That's why I love having this podcast because I can't change anything, anybody. This podcast is to encourage all of you to do what you can do out there to take that action because action takers is where it's at. Active action takers and
Yes.
make that change, make it a better world for them because
Yes.
I'm having these podcasts and, I look from all angles and they all need our help from, it's not like minor problems. It's massive. Okay. And I do see the victories coming through. Can't take credit, but when you're involved or whether you're not involved, hey, you see them coming through. Well, you know what that takes is strong leaders and strong supporters leads to strong victories, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Again,
So
again.
don't ever give up.
No, no,
Please
and
don't give up.
yeah, and
Yep.
focus on the positive as much as you can. I mean, we know the reality, like that's something that's it's going to change eventually. It just has to with enough, like you said, with enough of us standing up. And in the meantime, we celebrate and we do our individual parts, right? So we adopt,
That's
don't shop.
right.
We don't support puppy mill, dogs, pet stores. Thankfully, are being banned in many states. You know, the U.S. has banned in 8 states so far that I'm aware of, like California, New York, Illinois, Maine, Washington, Oregon, Vermont, and other local jurisdictions have passed laws now to just outlaw, ban pet stores. So if you see, you know, an operation that seems illegal, please say something, right? Again, speak up because that is something that needs to be brought to the surface. Because again, these shelter animals then are being overlooked.
That's right. And we need to, put it in the spotlight, everyone. We got
Yeah.
to get, we got to be the part of the solutions, not the ongoing problems.
Yes.
Please do something because, every animal out there's life's counting on it. Okay. Without us, they have no hope to carry on. And
Yes.
let's see this, what, a million a year in shelters get put down
I know.
and healthy adoptable animal, all ages. So, and that's nationwide, So,
I
we
know.
all have to do our part because these animals that are living in shelters,
Yeah.
they're safe, but it's not the way to live for them. Okay, it's not the TLC
Yeah.
home.
That's
Okay, a
right.
lot of stress in there. And we have to make it better for them. I love seeing those one photos coming through news feeds sometimes, and they say, "Hey, all the animals got adopted out, at this certain shelter," and it's
Yeah.
like, "Wow, look at this,"
I
and
know.
it does happen. Okay, I've seen it many times, and just the word getting out and sharing is caring. Okay,
I love
and
that.
that's what it takes is
Yes.
put a little love in your heart and do your part because
Yes.
these animals, their lives matter too. We're all on this earth temporarily, include all the animals. Okay,
Yes.
so let's make the best of it for them,
Yes.
not the worst, and to live in fear and anxiety. Let's get them out of that. They shouldn't be in that, and I see so many of them that are living like that in fear and anxiety,
Yeah.
and it's sad. I mean, from all angles. So we have to do it, and everyone that's in the chat room, and I hope more on the web come and join us, and you listen in worldwide. This is making voices heard worldwide. Okay, that's what
Yes.
we're doing. That's our goal, not nationwide, but worldwide. And the other country, people in other countries are listening probably to the archive shows and
Yes.
everything. But since I've been on this pod, being give a big shout out to them. This thing rocks, Suzana. I mean, I wish I would have found it a long time ago, and all shows after this, after they get downloaded and I edit them, and it's
Yes.
going to get published on 24 other uh,
Amazing.
podcast websites, and that's something, and 2 YouTube channels. My
Yeah.
Voices Carry for Animals podcast. So be a subscriber there, or the Animal Advocates radio podcast. Okay, that's on YouTube also. Subscribe, and that
Okay.
one. This you talk about teamwork. Big shout out to John Bowden of All About Animals Radio. They closed down sadly several months ago, but he passed his channel to me at
Oh,
Voices, yeah, Animal Advocates Radio, and all his video interviews are on there. 78 of them. So I'm
wow.
glad he thought of me and everything. It's sad that he have him go, but he still got his videos there. If he ever wants to come back, because he
Yeah.
had the Rising Lioness on there, which I was interviewed by her, Erica Salvamini. A big shout out to her on there. This was like over a year and a half ago, but I'm trying from every angle. I said, I'm going to be, the mama bear is going to be on a roll on this pod bean, okay? And I'm going to be out there everywhere, whatever it takes, and track
Yeah.
them action takers, whatever it
Yes.
takes. Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Because by doing that, you're giving a voice for these shelter animals, and also raising awareness on their plight, right? What they endure, and why all the celebrations that we see, we have to continue to share so that it's not so, so heartbreaking for people as well, because there is progress being made. Like we need to recognize that as well. I mean, there are shelters that are converting to no kill, right? So if you want to
Yes,
support a shelter that is dedicated to saving lives, you want to, send a small donation. You got $20, you got $10, you've got some supplies, you've got some time. That is also another way to look at it, because you want to keep those kinds of shelters flourishing too, right? We want to support the no kill. No kill means that animals that are savable will be kept in the shelter system and or transferred. And that's important for people to know as well, because they don't know sometimes, right?
that's right.
Yeah.
You
And
said it right there.
those
Yep.
people, those volunteers, yes, I read here, volunteers save lives. Absolutely. Some shelters, for example, the one that I was the director at, we were all volunteer based. So all the money that came in, all the volunteers understood that every penny is going to go more or less toward those animals and their veterinary care, their socialization, behavioral training. For example, for dogs, we did that, and so it's all going in the right place, right? But in order to relieve the shelters, I say society, communities can come together and help them.
That's right. It takes teamwork all the way. I mean,
Absolutely.
from the beginning to the end, it has to happen.
Yeah,
We cannot, it takes teamwork at every angle out there,
yeah.
working together and as the super team. And I mean, all my, the ones in the chat room, like, look, I have Mama Cat. She's listening. She's a former guest. She multitask and helps me out so much. She's been on several, shows and ever look forward to having her come back. And Pina for Justice for Destiny's listening in. Hey, Pina, I hope you talk on air. She's wonderful. She's another great guest. But see, what I mean, when they come in, they're always welcome here because anytime all followers and keep following me, okay, Susanna, because
Yes, I
that
will.
way the next time I have you on, I just send you an email invitation and you
Absolutely.
click it and you're in, okay? So you're all done.
Okay.
Yes, so it's awesome, and you'll get alerted on your phone or laptop or whatever you're using, tablet, iPad, that if you downloaded the Podbean podcast app and player on there, you'll get alerted when the show's coming on, and you could click the starting up, click to join. Isn't that wonderful? That's modern technology.
I'm all connected
Yes.
to you on my iPad, iPhone. I have no, yeah, I wasn't going to miss this one. So yeah, I am. And I love what you do. And I love this topic, and I'd love to share information from my book. Like I have a resource section in the back to help people to find organizations in their communities, and, to not feel overwhelmed, because, eventually the killing will stop if enough of us speak up, and it is stopping. I try to celebrate the progress. For example, on my LinkedIn page, I try to keep my blogs light and positive, because some people just need that to be uplifted. At the same time, it's important to have the conversation that you and I had, that the reality is that a million animals are being put down. Why?
That's right.
Because
You,
shelters are overcrowded. People are purchasing these pets online. They're purchasing from breeders when they're lovely, beautiful, innocent animals waiting. And let me tell you how lovely they are. As an example, my newest family member happens to be a rabbit. His name
oh,
is Ben.
that's awesome. Yes.
We don't talk about rabbits as much, right? But Benny
Right.
left in front of the shelter in a cage, a filthy cage. And I have another rabbit. I've got cats, dogs, you name it. But anyways, this rabbit was just in deplorable condition. And as soon as he got home, he was loving, and they do love us.
Yes.
They
Yes.
express their love through forgiveness of humans that abandon them. That's the beauty of it. My cat Miko, another example from the shelter that I was the director of the programs and operations. My cat Miko was returned 3 times to the shelter. He had a
Oh.
he had a few medical issues, like nothing serious. He's a cat that's like a dog. He's very loving. He's here with me now. If I could show him to you. And he's the most loving, beautiful family member you can imagine. I don't even understand how anybody could have just left him, right? So
Oh,
the
mm,
are, tall, right, of why people do what they do. And I'm not judging. I'm just saying give those shelter animals a chance. They deserve it and they will love you back.
that's right. Give them the home they so well deserve, everyone. Spay and neuter your pets. Let's get control of this. Because all
Yeah.
these animals in shelters, they deserve a TLC home, just like the ones we have at home.
Yes.
They need to be cared for and loved and paid attention to,
Yes.
run around freely. And they all deserve that. And we're on here and we're not going to disappear. We're not going away. Okay. So,
No.
and we're going to do our best to get the word out. And
Yes.
this stuff cannot be ignored or swept under the carpet or act like it's no big deal because it is a big deal.
Yes.
We have to do something,
Yes.
and make them happy. And then
Oh,
they'll
yes.
be, and that's what it takes, you
Yes.
know, because
Yes.
these breeders out there, puppy mills. I've had several shows on them. How they and the puppy mills. Look how they living. It's
Oh,
not good. It's sickening.
yeah. It's really, really, really sad, when you see what's really happening. I mean, I have
Oh,
really come across these puppy mills, and I mean, these poor animals are sitting in cages, and they are thought of as profit, literally. Um,
mm,
some of them get shot after they've done what they do. They're just discarded like, tomorrow's garbage. And it's wrong. And that's why we can take action now by spreading the word on, don't breed or buy while shelter animals die.
that's right.
Right?
That is a fact too, because it's so sad how many are getting, that dying in shelters from being put down, healthy. I've
Yes.
seen the saddest picture where when they're walking them down to put them down, and it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, why is this happening? We got to put us into it.
Yeah.
All the large, I mean, astronomical amount of animals get put down per year. For what? Overcrowding. That's not a good excuse.
It's not a good excuse at all. And that's why we have to be their representatives. That's how I view it. Like, we are a representative. The shelter in your local community, just do a Google search, find out, no kill, kill, whatever resonates with you. Again, there's no judgment. They all need help. But, small acts make big difference because that shelter, you find out, you tell your friend, your family member, and that's how you're spreading the word. You post them. I like to post them on my Instagram, for example, or like share on LinkedIn. I like to do that because I figure, like you said at the beginning, you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's listening to what you have to say. So you might as well just do something.
That's right, because you don't know who in that whatever news feed on X or Facebook or LinkedIn. You don't know who's on there. You're not following them and saying who's going to share
That's,
or whatever.
that's right.
So press that share because the like button don't give you no justice. Okay, it doesn't give the animals justice, whether it's a mad sign or laughing or happy or whatever. The
Yeah.
real let's see some justice. Let's push that share, share, share.
Share. Yeah.
Share, share, share for the mama bear, okay? That will,
Absolutely. That's right. I love
because that is, and I'd put that in, certain put on social media some share,
that.
share, share for the mama bear, because she
Yeah.
really does care.
Yeah, you do.
So,
Yeah,
yep,
absolutely. And your listeners, I can see, I mean, I see all this support, and it's so heartwarming. I just want to thank all of you as well for your comments and for being here and for all of us. Like I said, it's a village. It's all of us coming together. None of us
that's right.
alone. You can join an organization in your local community. or you can just speak out on social media. It's all making a difference, right?
Yep, you make your voice heard because it really does matter out there, everyone. Just
Yes,
like this super team and this chat room, there's so much energy going through, and that makes me. It's inspiring to me. It's uplifting to see this, Darla. Hey, I'm so glad to see you in here too. Another super team player, and Aloha, Carolyn, you're in there,
it
and it's great. I mean,
is.
I had problems at the beginning. I said, I don't want to let this show. I got to do something, try something. And
Yeah,
that's why I was working hard to get it back up because I was like, it wasn't my fault. It was, I mean, it was my fault. It was a Podbean, because the iPad and everything. But I
yeah,
said,
yeah.
I didn't want to pass, go and say, oh, we got to cancel. No, I don't want to cancel. I'll figure out something. I'm
Right.
relentless.
Yeah, you are. You are.
Yep.
That's true. That's true, and it's so important, right? Because you're
Yep.
also you're educating other people, right? Making people aware, because for the most part, people want to do well. I find, most of
Oh,
us want
yeah.
goals, right? We just don't know how to help, and that's why I'm hoping that I can share with the viewers and encourage them and those other people that listen to your podcast. Adopt, volunteer, foster, donate, share, and that's how we get the word out. I don't want to talk about euthanasia statistics. That's a very terrible, hard topic.
Oh,
It needs to be discussed for people to
yep.
become aware of what's really happening. We need to have this conversation, because if we don't, and then we need to contact our local representatives, like you said, because these laws can change when the people speak up.
That's right. When we all step up to the plate and contact them, hey, we vote them in and we vote them out, and it doesn't matter. And if you look at our representatives and senators, they're made up of both parties, Democrat and Republican. So we can't have no political discrimination. We have to get with them and encourage them. Hey, let's get this law passed or whatever. Yeah, co-sponsor. It
Yes,
takes teamwork all the way.
it does.
We're not we're all Americans. We're not Republican Americans. We're not Democrat Americans. We're Americans, and that's all of us together.
We're
You
animal
know,
lovers. We're animal loving, right? And
that's
so I
right.
hear from Aloha. Thank you for sharing this. So for Reba, right, the bulldog. Yes, yes, that's
Yes,
right. So the strict animal laws that passed were not done easily, right? It took effort, and it was necessary, and that's what's happening in states, right? So these laws that are getting passed are through people like us that are standing up and saying no to animal cruelty. You cannot leave your dog tethered in like extreme cold or heat and expect to be just walk away. These animal cruelty laws now are being passed, and that's the good news, right? So
yes,
slowly, more and more states are recognizing that. More and more states are outlawing these pup stores, right? So that animals are not being bred and sold like commodities, right? Because they're not. They're living, breathing beings. And so we celebrate the success, and then we follow those states that are doing well, right?
yes, yes. And then make it go nationwide. Not just state to state, and then hit it every state out there. 50 of them.
That's
You
right.
know,
The
that's
state.
what it's about. Nation, federal laws go after them. That has to have more co-sponsors and everything.
Yes.
But it can happen. I've seen it happen. So
Absolutely, absolutely. As another example, like I don't know if you're aware that divorce cases, for example, animals are being considered in some states, and that's progress. So it is happening, right? So some
that's
judges,
right.
I read a decision today about a New York judge that made a decision that was going to recognize this dash hound named Duke, who was killed by a driver recklessly, just drove into him while the son's mother was walking the poor dog. And the New York judge ruled that Duke was going to be considered a family member.
Good, because that's what it should be.
Yeah,
A furry family love one, family member. Because once they walk into your home, they
yeah.
are a furry
They
family
are.
member.
So as people bring these cases to court, right? So when I practiced as a lawyer, I had clients that brought these cases, these dogs getting detained because they had an incident, for example. And like Darla just said, there are family members, right? And like you
That's
just said,
right.
so
That's
we have to keep coming forward to the courts, to the legislatures, and speak up, and you know gather in communities. Another powerful way is petitions. Petitions get shared, right? So
yes.
yes, yes. So you can do that. I've started petitions here and there, and gotten some support, and that's another way. So there's so many ways to do small acts of kindness for animals.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to be kind to animals. Nothing,
Nothing.
and it doesn't get much any easier to help make changes in the comfort of your own home, your
That's right.
computer, your phone, if you have a fax or copier, you got social media. You don't even have to move from there to make changes, sign petitions, share them. I see a lot of people, hey, sign a petition. They'll put sign and I'm going to say, hey, and share, that's what gets doubles in number, quadruples, and
Yes.
take that action, get it out there because that's what it takes. Sometimes, because not everybody's on social media same time of days on any social media. So
Yeah.
a lot of times I tag
Yeah.
or I keep, sharing every so often. That's how I met you was on LinkedIn sharing your stuff. I was like, look, I need her on the show. Okay, you know what you're putting and how hard you're working. I said, that's teamwork, and I find guests like that, seeing how, hey, look how active they are, bring them on. And I go from the biggest organizations to the smallest to animal advocates that have Facebook pages or groups, it doesn't matter. We
No.
want your voice heard,
Yeah.
so
Well, we're speaking
yes,
from the heart. Like all of us are speaking from the heart. And, so many people, as I said in the beginning, turn a blind eye. And so by educating them and sharing with them these possibilities for change, that's how it happens. And, the governments, right, they're going to listen to the public, to what the populace wants. And when enough of us speak out against these kill shelters, they're going to have to stop, right? Turn them into
yep.
sanctuaries.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just we got to get this stuff that's out of control back in control, and we got to do something. We can't just look the other way because it's a big problem, and we
Yeah.
have to do something.
Yeah.
Everyone, we can't just I can't do it by myself. I do my best,
Yeah.
but I can't change anything. And thousands of out there like me, we can. Okay, we're letting our voices be heard. We're
Yes.
taking that action, and that's the key. You
That's the key.
know,
We're not sitting complacent. We're not passively sitting and allowing this. We're speaking up. We're sharing. If all of us gather in our own networks, right? Think about what kind of effect that can have, which I think we're doing now, and we continue doing that. And we don't let those sad stories demotivate us. We are proactive, right?
Yep, that's right. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Like
That's
those
where
things.
you got to stay.
Yes, and the first step is to just not support those puppy mills, and to make sure to not only adopt, but to make sure to speak up and be the representative in your local community.
That's right. And more unity in the community.
Yes,
That's what we need. Go to your city council meetings. Write those emails. It doesn't take that long.
well,
Or
it's amazing.
letters. Show
Yeah,
up. Appointments.
that's right.
Yeah.
How many bills, how many laws have passed through that action I've seen over the years? Just in when I wrote my Master of Law thesis, for example, I wrote about animal cruelty, and these laws that were being actually put together by people like you and me, ordinary people like you and me. If you don't mind me
That,
saying, you're not,
no, I don't know. That's right. Hey, you're right. Yes.
because
Agreed.
you put out water, like I'm reading here. Do something. You see, it's like I said before. You see a dog that's tethered, or you see something that doesn't feel right. You see a dog in a hot car being left behind. Call the authorities. Speak up. right? Because
That's
those
right.
animals need our voices. All of that, unites us into advocating on behalf of the voiceless animals, and we're all then making a difference.
That's right. A voice for the voiceless.
Yes,
Don't be silent, because being silent don't get you nowhere. It just the
that's
problems get worse. If you do nothing, expect no changes. Okay. So
that's
put
right.
that, think about it, open your eyes, be a positive light in this world. And it's a very dark world. So we
Heavy.
have to do something.
Yeah, and at
Eh,
the same time, like I have a lot of empathy. Like I said, when I was at the Humane Society, seeing people having to give up their dogs, cats for whatever reasons. I mean, life happens, right? We're not judging. We're just saying that this is not acceptable to be putting them down, right?
that's right. Yep.
Community to build a network of animal lovers that will take those dogs and cats out into the foster system, just move them around, share their stories. And every animal has a story, and that's another way that I'd love to share with your listeners, that I find that we can have impact. Like I walk my dog, my rescue dogs, and I always tell everybody, oh, they're rescue dogs, and one of them, looks like a major designer dog. He's not, right? And I just share that because that's important for people to know, that there are lovely animals that are sitting in the shelters that didn't come from breeders. And guess what? In the shelters, they're spayed, they're neutered, they have their chips, their microchips, they have their health checks. So sometimes it's even more beneficial, isn't it? If not
That's
always.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. Because that's what they did to Sugar Bear. They checked her through, and I was like, and also on Victory, they did the other bear back in the first. That's how I got the name Mama Bear. But
Oh,
he was from they all get checked out,
yes.
and even the ones Liberty was she. It was so sad. She was living on the street as a kitten, okay, and one of my friends, her daughter's allergic to cats, but she was feeding, and they got a pit bull, and the pit bull and Liberty was best friends, and that's something, sitting on the driveway, and so got her checked out, full great health, and I was
Yeah.
like, and even with Kitty, who passed away years ago, was at the neighbor's house in the back, got her checked out, full bill of health, good
Yes.
health. So, don't ever think that they're not going to be in good health, because even Victory, what was it, 20, it was a couple, 2.5 years ago,
Yes.
he also had it. He was in the shelter, got adopted, and he had a clean bill of health. So you never say, oh, they're not going to be healthy or nothing like that. Yes, they are. They give them that full checkout, so, and whatever they need. And I looked, I said, you know what? I got to encourage more people from years ago to adopt, don't shop, because I will never get one from a breeder or, a puppy mill. It's not happening.
No way.
There's no way. I can't deal with it.
No,
So,
no, because then we are contributing to the problem of disposability. And as I read through the comments, I like what Michelle. So you wrote, "Refer to yourself as a guardian, not owner." Absolutely, that's the whole thesis of my book. So, but
all right, Michelle.
tell, because I'm trying to encourage people to realize that when we view our beloved companions and those that are homeless, right, uh,
Yep,
we're guardians to them. We're human guardians. We're not owners. So we want to change that language. So I love that. That's so important, and that's the whole root of the problem, right? So
that's right.
want to show that we are uh, supporting them as loving beings with
That's
feeling,
right.
right?
They have feelings. They're like us. They see, they eat, they smell, they have feelings, they sleep. They just speak in a different language, but we bond with them. If
That's right.
everybody would open their heart and give them a chance and bond, it's amazing. It's beautiful,
Yeah.
and they're unconditional love out there. So give them, everyone out there. If you know somebody, please tell them, adopt, don't shop. If
Yeah.
they say anything about breeders or puppy mills, say no, no.
No, no,
Look
no.
what's
Exactly.
going on behind the scenes, and you won't like it. Okay, you
Like
will
it.
not like it.
Yes. And
No.
those pharaohs, like I saw Mama Cat just put, like the mobile vet that comes to the two colonies. That's great. You see, that's needed, right? We need to spay,
Yep.
to neuter. We need to take action and have those in our communities to prevent the overpopulation that's happening, right?
That's right. And
Yeah.
she's a former guest, and she takes care of over 100 cats in colonies. You know,
Wow.
former guest. I've had her so many times. She's filled in and everything, and she multitasks. Mama Cat, you got a big heart out there, huge heart. Okay, and I
Chart.
hope you call in. And I look at Michelle. And look what she does. She helps me out on my admins on, Voices Carry for Animal Support Group, her and Patricia Perry.
Yes.
Patricia Perry's supposed to be coming on if she's trying,
Yes.
to get in here, or, if she had some stuff to do, but give her a shout out too, because she's admin on, Paws Across America, have many group, 50 groups, and plus
Wow.
she helps me with mine, Animal Habits Call to Action, and so does Michelle.
Yes.
Michelle, and they're super team players. I mean, when they're posting on my groups, I don't even go and see what they're posting. That's how much I trust them.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't. That's what teamwork is. I don't worry about it.
Right? It helps because this informs other people. Oh,
Yep.
there's vets
Yep.
that come to to colonies. Like people don't know that, so it's all we're sharing. We're sharing information, and we're making sure to call our furry babies what they really are. We're not owning them, right? They're not property, and that's what I fought when I was an animal rights lawyer to change that language as much as we can.
Yes, agreed. Because they're not property.
No,
That our
not property.
properties are furniture, or house and cars and stuff like this. Animals are not property. I hate when I hear that when somebody, oh, they're property. No, they're not. They're living animal beings. They
Yeah,
breathe. They eat everything. How can
yes.
they call them that?
Well, those are just old laws, right? So, I see here, yes, praying for their personhood is the next step, and that's important. So, we need to first recognize them as sentient beings, which they are, living, breathing, feeling, complex creatures, each with their own personalities. We can talk about
Yep,
our furry friends all night, I'm sure. Each one of us has a cool story. And then we can move toward personhood, which is my hope eventually, which is where the courts recognize the interests of the animals, right? So, and
that's
that's
right.
slowly happening as well. Very slow, but it is happening. So, I want to leave it on a positive note, right? Because we all have a role to play, whether we adopt from shelters, whether we speak up when we see something that just isn't right. We see an innocent animal suffering in any way. We can be advocates, like I am, for example, can be an activist, or you can just care for your own pet, right?
That's right.
That's enough.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
said it right there. And Susanna, I'm gonna run the show over if you don't mind, because
No,
I mean, it's the 11-year anniversary. Everybody
love it.
rocking the airways for the animals. That's what my goal is.
Yeah, sure.
And but anyway, go ahead and give your website out, and also she is located on LinkedIn too, everyone, and your book, A Voice for Animals book. If you can give them information on that, and then I'm gonna take some callers, okay?
Oh,
So if
sure, sure, absolutely.
anybody wants to speak to Susanna, you go ahead and press the mic icon at the bottom of the screen, in the lower right hand corner, to alert me that you want to come on air, okay? And you're more than welcome to come on air. Just try to, not have any noises in the background, TVs, radios, conversations. And then while you're talking on air, please don't use the speakerphone, because then that picks up the noises. So it picks up everything. And Susanna, she just gave her website, and this is great. See how you can help out. Share her website or whatever she has. If you're on LinkedIn, she has some great stuff to share on there, Susanna. You do. I mean, you're out there working hard.
Thank
But
you. I try to share, yeah, I try to share positive victories and updates. So if anyone's interested in finding out, what's happening in the communities, like I talked about no kill, I talked about the things that we can do as a community or individually. And then on top of that, I like to share positive news stories on progress that's being made. Like, for example, what happened in Nevada, right? So, animal cruelty laws, all these because we need positivity, people. We're overwhelmed. Like you said, inflation, there's so much going on, but the animals are a way to unite us, I find. When
Yes,
we talk about our beloved furry friends, and I feel more inspired and lit up by this conversation tonight, by us gathering and giving a voice to an animal. Like, if you think of an animal sitting in a shelter that has no one, well, guess what? That animal may have us, because somebody may get motivated to want to go to the shelter tomorrow and adopt one, or even
that's
foster,
right.
right?
Agreed, right there. Letting our voices be heard,
Yes,
and hey, let them have a good life. TLC home, they
yes,
so well deserve.
yes, they do.
And you won't regret it. They'll come in, and you'll say, hey, and they're part of your family members now, furry family or fur babies, or
Yeah,
and they treat them good, and you can't go wrong. You won't regret it at all. You
absolutely.
know,
Even like in my book, I tried to share the research on, like, the common bond. We think we're rescuing them, but I mean, they have proven in so many studies to relieve us of loneliness, to help us cope better with our own life situations, because they're always present and happy. They bring us into the present moment. I mean, I remember, like, in the book, when I was researching happy stories, I came across this shelter dog named Peanut, who was, a severely abused dog, just this little mutt, I think. And this family decided to adopt Peanut. And one day, in the middle of winter, Peanut starts barking and alerting the new guardian of, something that's going on. And it turns out there was a 3-year-old girl who was in a ditch, and Peanut saved her life. So I mean,
wow.
yeah, they have a
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. And then in another story,
Mm.
I share a cat that this woman had been diagnosed with cancer. And the cat actually was diagnosed with cancer. And the woman ended up kind of following how the cat was, still being happy, living life, sleeping more, resting more. And they both ended up recovering. So it's just, animals are amazing. And the more we learn about their stories with other people, the more they can become interested. And these animals are rescues.
See, I mean, there's so many success stories out there,
Yes.
and they deserve the attention. Whatever they do, hey, we all love having taking pictures of them and having family pictures with them and enjoying time with them and talking to them. I know that they love you to talk to them,
Yeah.
and to spend time with them
I
and
love
let them know they're well loved and cared for. You
Yeah, and I
know,
think that when we do that, I actually think before the podcast, if I can just share with all of you, I was a little nervous to talk to Debbie. You're so, like, experienced, and so you're such a great
you're
big
you're
personality.
doing great. You're like a pro.
Like, no, but I thought, how am I going to just calm myself down? And my cat Miko just jumped in my lap, and I'm wearing these sweatpants that have these, like, ruffles, and he just started playing with them and started purring, and I was like, "Aw, this is what I need to do."
That's it. That's awesome though. But you're doing great. You're speaking out great. I mean, a pro. And getting your information out so informative and
Thank you so
getting have people open their eyes and see what's really going on behind the scene.
much.
You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that what matters. What's going on behind closed doors
Well,
out there.
that's the thing. So that's the thing that we need to talk about, because then we awaken people, right? So,
Yep.
and the fact is that no kill shelters are in existence. And, my whole thesis when I wrote about animal shelters is that no kill, right? Saving every animal that is adoptable and healthy is possible. People
It
need to
is.
know that. People need to know that, because we can then take killing off the table.
That's right. And you ready to take some calls there, Susanna?
I am.
Okay, Mama Cat, you have any comments or questions for Susanna? You're live and on the air. Go right ahead.
Oh, I have a bunch of things to say.
Oh, you do? You?
I
Come on.
do. Um,
Meow.
I want to give a big shout out to the Fremont County Animal Shelter, and that's in Canyon City, Colorado. That place was killing over half of the animals that
Oh,
came in. And
Whoa.
a guy named Doug Ray, I hope he doesn't mind me throwing his name out there. He came in and took over the shelter on day one, was the last day that they killed an animal in that
oh,
shelter.
that's so
They
beautiful.
do not, they do not kill. They do not destroy because of aggression or anything like that. They
Yeah,
have trainers that volunteer to
amazing.
help at the shelter. They work with the animals.
This
And
is
as a
wonderful.
matter of fact, his first year, there were like 5 pit bulls that were taken from a fighting ring.
Yep.
And I was down there and I got to admit, those dogs scared the hell out of me. Um, they were very aggressive, but Doug was not going to give up on those dogs. And every single day he would sit a little closer to their cage and a little closer. And that's what I do with the cats.
Oh,
I talk to them. I eat my supper. I don't look them straight in the eyes because that's, intimidating to them,
yeah.
but he sat there and he talked with those dogs day after day. Thanksgiving, they were closed because there's nobody there. Doug had his Thanksgiving meal delivered to the shelter
Oh,
along with enough for all the animals that were in the shelter. And he sat with those 5 pit bulls. And by the end of the day, he was inside the cages of 2 of them.
wow.
Oh, check this out.
It does work. It does
Yep,
happen. It
Yeah.
does take time,
that's right.
but you do not, there's no reason to kill them unless the animal is suffering. If
No.
the animal is suffering and there's, little to no chance of the recovery of that animal, I do believe in crossing them over pain free. But I do not believe that all these shelters that are killing for room and killing, because the animal is barking or growling. Well, let me see. Let me take you out of your home, your loving home, dump you on the street, and then pick you up off the street and shove your butt in a cage all by
Yes.
yourself. Let's see how friendly you are today,
Right.
you know? And
I know.
I mean, he was called a liar and that he was fudging the numbers and he was investigated up, down, and sideways. And he truly does not kill the animals. And he's got a 99% save rate. The 1% are, of course, the ones that, you know, are too ill, um, to make it, to survive. And he does put those on his numbers, even though by state law he doesn't have to. He does. And so I just wished we had more people like him,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's very good. He turned that shelter around and I'm so thankful. And then the cat. So many shelters don't want anything to do with cats. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't want them brought in. They'll tell you just leave them on the street.
Yeah.
You know, I take care of, about 100 different cats
Whoa.
and they're like 15 different colonies.
Wow.
And when we go to an area, we don't leave until every cat is caught, every single one. We don't leave nobody behind because then you're just defeating your purpose. You know what I mean? We get them all fixed. We get them all chipped. We get them all their shots. And before we bring them back to where we trapped them at, we have houses and feeding stations installed wherever we can get them. And we have people that go every single day and feed and water every single day. That's just how we do it, how I do it, I should say. And I've had great success. I don't have any babies this year still, knocking on wood. Not one baby in any of my colonies.
That's really impressive. so other people can learn from Doug and from you. So this is really important to share this information, right? Because like you said, like that example of Doug saving 99%, so the live release rate stops the killing is remarkable, and it can be done, and there are some other shelters that do that. So that's why I'm saying it is possible,
It is.
and people are doing it, but those, they don't get as much credit, they don't get as much victory, so we need to raise them and find out in our communities how to get someone like Doug Ray in our own shelters,
He's
because
just an amazing man, and he really loves the animals,
obviously,
and that's a key issue.
yes,
Um, they're hiring these people with an exuberant pay,
yes,
and Doug doesn't take the exuberant pay. He puts it right back into the shelter. He
oh,
takes what he said what he gets, but I don't remember. It's like 50 or 60 grand a year, I believe. It's not what these big shelters are given, but
yeah,
he donates it back into what he calls enrichment.
oh yeah, yeah,
And so he has toys for all the animals always. You never can go there and not see those animals without a toy. They
wow,
all have toys. He started uh I forget what he called it, recliners for Rocky, I think is what it started out to be. And Rocky was a boxer, and like 10 or 15 boxers got brought in from a hoarding situation. They were in rough shape. And he asked for donations of like lazy boy stuffed kind of chairs. And he was putting those in the little cages with the animals so that they'd have a little piece of home in there. And
oh,
it brightens their day. It just, you can see the love and the joy on their little faces. And when people go to a shelter and they see happy animals, they adopt them, you
yes,
know? And so I think what he does is wonderful. I just wish, more shelters did that. So many places tried knocking him down just over and over because there's no way you can be doing, no kill. They just wouldn't believe it that he was doing it. And it was
yeah,
a time when we had legislation for no kill in Colorado is when it
oh,
all first started.
yep,
And everybody was trying to go no kill. Well, we found out that a lot of the shelters were transferring animals from their shelters into higher kill shelters. And
oh,
that way they didn't have to list the deaths because they weren't actually doing it.
oh my God,
So they're the ones, of course, that were going after Doug with both hands. There's
yeah,
no way you can do it. Well, yeah, there is a way. Stop fudging with the numbers, do
yeah,
it like you're supposed to do it, and really love the animals. I
yes,
mean, you can see he truly loves those animals, every single one of them. And it's a wonderful shelter.
that's a lovely story, and it's so important to recognize that the leadership. So we're talking about Doug Ray. I'll just write it. Doug, I'm just trying to type it in. We're talking about the leadership. So it does start with the leadership of
It
who runs
does.
the shelter, and I've seen that firsthand, right? Because the leadership is what informs how the policies are going to be run in the shelter itself. So, you have the municipality and you have the laws, like in the municipal shelters, the individual shelters have their own policies and they can take killing off the table. I've seen it. I've seen it at shelters. This is a great example of Doug Ray, and that is what we need to focus on,
Yeah,
those positive stories, to get each other motivated and then to speak up, because having people that don't care about animals running these shelters is a recipe for disaster.
it is. And we got to get rid of the gas chambers. God, those
Oh,
things just drive. Oh,
I can't even believe they still exist.
I
Utah,
can't either. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Utah still has them.
Oh,
Isn't that sickening? That is, and unbelievable. We got to do something.
Yeah.
We got to stop it because it's so brutal and cruel.
It's
Yeah.
so archaic and cruel and inhumane. And so, like, what I found when I did work as with the government, the municipal government, and then had my own practice of animal law, was that what I would do to get some success was I would take examples from other places that didn't do that. So, like, if enough of us gathered together and said, okay, how many states don't do what Utah is doing? Like, there's so many, most I would say don't. I mean, you can check yourself, use these gas chambers anymore. I mean, that's just so outdated. And we bring that to the local municipality, to the legislature. That's how we get things done. And then it's about enforceability, which
Yeah.
doesn't so easy, but it can be done. It really can.
You
Oh
just have
yeah,
to take charge and be a caring, so many of them, I know they get, you know, brain flogged or whatever you want to call it, overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If you're overwhelmed, it's time to take a break. You
Yeah.
know,
It's time to take a
if,
break. That's
if
right.
you're taking your anger and frustrations out on animals,
I know.
innocent animals, then
Oh,
it's time for you to step back and take a break. You
that's
know,
right. That's right. That's right. Because the animals are the ones that are the victims in this whole situation. Another thing is people need to be responsible guardians, responsible pet parents, and shelters should be a last place you should dump an animal because the shelter workers themselves, whether they're volunteers, whether they're paid, can be overwhelmed by people's irresponsibility. And I've seen it. I remember when I was a volunteer, like I'd be going in and I'd see someone dropping off the cat because they have an allergy, just
yeah,
dumping the cat off, for example. And it's like, well, maybe try to find that cat a home first before you bring it to the shelter.
yeah. First to last breath is my saying.
Yeah, yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, people like at the shelters themselves need to inform the public. I mean, I've seen this now where they will say, in the surrender application, so if you drop off your dog or cat, there is a chance that that dog or cat is going to lose his or her life if they're not adopted. That needs to go in there too, so that again, more people understand that you're not just dumping off this shelter and there's a guarantee they're going to find a loving home. There's so many people that seem to think that. I don't know
Yeah,
why,
yeah.
but
It's
that's
not
not
true.
true. It's not true. It's not true.
No.
So if we know of
And
someone in our close circles it's considering, letting go of their pet. I always say, okay, well, just so you know, if you drop off your pet at the shelter, you may never see them again. That's fine. You may not care, but you should know that they may lose their life.
right.
That's right. Yep. But this is very
And
serious. It's no joke.
No joke.
another thing I think these shelters need to do is when people are adopting, let's just say, for example, a Rottweiler,
Yes.
they should have a printout of information about the Rottweiler, what
Yes.
they need, how much exercise, their life expectancy, what
Yeah.
their, weight should be, blah, blah, blah. Because
Yes.
so many people get like these little bitty dogs and then they say, well, we didn't realize it was going to live for 25 years. Well, then don't adopt.
Don't adopt. Don't adopt. I've seen, so at the shelter where I was uh, the director now, most recently, I mean, these dogs, for the most part, and cats are young, right? They're young animals because, like you said, like people don't realize what they're getting into. And then what happens is they bring the animal in when they're past the puppy kitten phase.
Right.
They miss that opportunity and then they just sit there. They sit for
Yeah.
years, for months. And that's wrong. If you're not willing to put in the lifelong commitment for that animal, please don't adopt.
Oh, and
That's right.
I wanted to mention something you were talking about rabbits.
Yes?
Several years ago, I got a phone call from somebody that told me that they were going out to the local CJC, which is the jail, to visit somebody. And
Oh,
in the field before the jail, she saw about 10 or 15 white rabbits.
Oh.
And I was like, white rabbits in the field? No way. She goes, I swear to God, that's what it. So I was like, that can't be. So I drove out there. Well, it was about a month after Easter,
Oh no.
and people had taken, I don't know how many people took their rabbits out there. They probably saw, well, there's already some here. Might as well dump ours here too. There was, in the end, we got 70 some rabbits out of there.
Oh no.
And yeah, some of them were very, very friendly. So they were newly dumped,
Yeah.
and those were adopted real quick. But the other ones, there was like 50, 48 or 50, somewhere in there, that were just, I mean, they were like wild rabbits. They were just wild. And I get on the phone and I call my hubby and I'm boohooing. Oh, these rabbits. Oh, what am I going to do? And he's like, oh my God, you're bringing rabbits home, aren't you? I was like, I think it might be. He said, well, where are they? I said, well, they're in the truck. So he was pretty sure they were coming home. Do you know, it took me about 2.5 hours to get everything cleaned up out there and bring them rabbits here. By the time I got here, he had cages built for them all along the fence.
Oh wow.
They
Wow.
weren't, they
Check that
weren't
out.
great. They weren't great cages, but they were up off the ground. They were completely enclosed so they wouldn't be in the weather. And I just started bawling.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
oh my
that's
God.
awesome.
Because I didn't know what I was going to do with all those dang rabbits.
Yeah.
That's
And then
awesome though.
a place,
That's a big heart. That's a big heart.
a
You know?
place in Utah. I can't remember the name of it. Shame on me. A bunny's life or something. I don't remember the name for sure. Um, they actually drove here and got all of those rabbits.
Aw.
They have a sanctuary and they came and
Oh,
got every single one of them rabbits.
oh, that's so beautiful. You're such a beautiful human being. Oh, you're
That's
you're
it. Huge heart. That's
Well,
right.
you're a
he
beautiful
told,
example of someone who doesn't just sit back and watch and doesn't do not do anything. You're taking steps to help. You see, and that's what's needed. And I'm so glad you brought up sanctuaries and rescues because oh boy, are they ever in need of help, right? So
oh, yes.
yeah, because they're the ones that are rescuing from the shelters. I mean, there's like communities of rescues working behind the scenes to try to save these animals, and they don't get any funding from the government. They do them all. It's like grassroots work, and so if we can help them in any way, again, volunteer, share their information. That's all needed as well. Not just the shelters, but the rescues and the sanctuaries.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Every bit counts. And
Yep.
we're coming down. Let's see, which one? We got an hour and 31 minutes also. Mama Cat, I'm gonna put you on hold for a minute and see if anybody
Okay.
wants to ask any questions or comments for Susanna. Press that lower right hand corner icon, the mic icon, to alert me you want to come on air. Okay, and I will bring you on air. Just try to stay from any noises in the background. And everyone, thank you for joining in this evening for the 11th year anniversary of Voices Carry for Animals podcast. And I wanted to give Tyler at podserve.fm a big shout out because he really helped me out on Animal Advocates Radio. That's what's on there to transfer all these shows from Blog Talk Radio. He's a great team player, and because I didn't know nothing how to do it. And also, I wanted to also give the shout out to Marty Oakley's her host, because they're still running her shows on TS Radio Network. Everyone, and I want to give a shout out to them, Marsha Joyner, and she's been with TS Radio for a while, and they have elder abuse and guardianship abuse, you name it, and calls Witten Skype. She's one of the main hosts of Marty's, and Marcel Reed, Whistleblowers on TS Radio Network. And if you want to visit their shows, you could go to podchaser.com and put in there TS Radio Network. And you can also find all my 163 shows on there also. Okay, Voices Carry for Animals search. So you can go from there and Podbean, visit Podbean, and because all these shows are going to be, the show's going to be downloaded and edited and then published all over the place, everyone. And this is great news. I mean, we're going to keep going. We're not giving up. But you can also on player.fm. The good news is for 2025, and I wanted to announce this, and I said it on several shows, uh, Voices Carry for Animals podcast has hit the top podcast for 2025 on player.fm under animal rescue podcast, and also and isn't that great? I love hearing this, and under animal welfare podcast. So a big this is great, and also on goodpods.com, and it hit top 25 for the on the Animal Advocates podcast, or I'm sorry, Animal Rights podcast, top 2025. So we're going to keep going, okay? So, and here, Aloha, you want to speak on air? Go right ahead.
Yes, I
Yeah.
just want to say congratulations, Debbie, on 11 years.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to keep going. It's
Yes,
time flies. Can't give up. Got to be relentless. We
agreed.
can't, our voices and our actions really do matter. And this is what I wanted to do is attract more action takers. That's the key right there. If we just listen to the shows and move on, there's going to be no changes. We might as well not even be listening to them if we don't do nothing. Right?
Agreed.
And you got to take that action. Share, share, share for the mama bear out there, and everyone else, and especially for the animals because they mean so much to all of us that's tuning in and everything. So we can't give up.
And
But I want
hello
to thank you
to
for your
Suzana.
support.
And you're
Yeah,
welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad to connect with you since 2022.
yes, isn't that awesome?
Yeah,
Three
three
years
years,
now. Yep.
almost 3 years.
Appreciate all
August,
your help and
August
and
makes 3 years.
give Harry a big hug from me.
I
It's
sure
Carolyn
will.
and Harry and
Yeah.
Susanna. That's her name. Her name's Carolyn and her dog's name's Harry, and he's adorable.
Oh,
Yep.
yes.
Yep. But
Yes.
thank you so much, and all of you,
You're
making it
welcome.
happen, making it a total success.
And I'll
Yep.
continue to share your shows on Facebook.
Yeah, appreciate it very much. All of your help out there because it means so much. Like I was telling, and calls and Marsha, I'm still in contact with them. Marsha Reed from TS Radio Network. We after Marty passed away, we stayed in contact. I know they're under different categories and different issues, but we're still working together. Helping each other out in some form or manner or something. And I think that's wonderful. That's what Marty would want. And may she rest in peace, because that's the grassroots right there of when it first started. So, but I appreciate all of your help out there. Every single one of you from X, I had the page Voices Carry for Animals podcast on X and my personal page. Feel free to follow me there. I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Debbie Dahmer. And also on Facebook, I have a Voices Carry for Animals podcast Facebook page. And where there's animals on death row, put a Voices Carry for Animals support group. That's
Mhm.
what Michelle and Patricia helped me with, and there's plenty of it. It's so sad how many's going through, and it's showing they're losing their lives, because they're not getting fostered or adopted or to safety. So please spread the word out there,
Yeah.
and keep what you're doing there, Aloha.
Thank you. And I'll give
Yep.
others a chance to speak. Thank you,
And
Susanna and Debbie
yeah,
and Mama
you're so
Cat.
welcome. And
You.
Mama Cat, there's Peanut, you're out there. Did you want to speak? I'm not sure. I don't see you, but she was another former guest out there. Darla, did you want to speak? You're more than welcome on the 11th year anniversary of Voices Care for Animals. We'll keep going. And this is another great show. There she is. Okay, Darla, you are live and on the air. Can you hear me? Darla, welcome aboard. Are you there? You might have to send it to me again. Send me another invite. I don't see it coming lit up. Okay, you're on speaker now. It just alerted me. Go right ahead. Thanks for calling in. Go ahead.
I just
Can you hear me?
I just wanted to congratulate you on 11 years.
Oh, thank you. That's another super team player. Yeah.
And I
This is
also have a question. I also have a question because of all the holiday dumping dogs with the fireworks. What would you suggest shelters do?
Suzana. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
do you care to elaborate? So people are just they're dumping dogs at shelters. Is that what you're saying during fireworks?
Uh, the one July when I volunteered at the shelters before, the busiest day of the busiest day is July 5th.
Yes.
Is there any recommendations you can share in how to avoid all the shelter dogs getting dumped because of fireworks?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a great tip to bring up because especially because it's coming up now next week. So yes, that is one of the worst, if not the worst day for the shelters. So what I would say to pet parents is to please keep your beloved furry family members safe and sound in the homes. To to keep the shelters empty by not allowing them to roam free, right? So these a lot of these animals get lost or they get scared from the fireworks and then they run away and then they can't find their way home. And so in order to prevent this from happening, to try to be as proactive as we can with our friends and our family members who have companion animals, and then to keep our own pets safe at home, right? Because it's a really scary. Think about the noise, and dogs like are able to hear so much more than we are, right? Like the sounds for these animals, and so that's what I would recommend. And then the ones that are lost in shelters, well, most of them should be microchipped, right? They should, and that's another thing that people can do proactively from their end. Is that what you're looking for, or a different kind of?
Well, no, I was just wondering because with July 4th coming up and all the fireworks going off and all the scared animals, I'm like, oh good Lord, here we go again.
Yeah, yeah, and here, like Loa said, animal rights activists, yes, we do try to get these fireworks banned, right, and find other ways, right? That is important. That's a really good point that you brought up, and that is the goal overall, right? To not encourage people to set off these fireworks, because that's distrust for pets. And I've written blogs on my website on ways to prevent, pets from getting into the shelters and getting away, right? But in the meantime, that's what I would recommend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question there, Darla, because it's coming up next Friday or so. But anyway, everyone, I'm going to be closing it down. And I really enjoyed this another great show this evening. And Susanna, I can't thank you enough for the very informative and outstanding show. You got a great voice out there. You're a pro, okay? And you're waking us up and looking forward to having you back on again, okay? So that would be wonderful. I like to have my guests on, not just one time, just bring them back. The more exposure out there, the better. It's
Oh,
keeping fresh in our mind and it's not fizzling out, so updating everyone. But anyway, everyone, all these shows, like I said, will be I'm going to download them and then edit them and then publish them. And if you're a member at any of those or you're following them, please spread the word because on these other podcast platforms, websites, It's either Voices Carry for Animals podcast or Animal Advocates Radio podcast. You could search because I got a lot of them listed with both. You can search or go there. iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, PodParadise.com, Amazon Podcast, Podbay.fm, Rephonic, Boomplay, Castro, Castbox. Mama Bear's on a roll, isn't she, or something? Pocket Cast, Podchaser. We got Player.fm, Listen Notes, Podcast Addict. All these are other podcast websites or platforms. Audible, Podcast Republic, Podtel.com, Pandora.com, Odyssey.com, Goodpods.com, Panoply FM, and two YouTube channels, Voices Carry for Animals podcast channel, and you can subscribe, and also on Animal Advocates Radio podcast on YouTube channel and subscribe. All of them are all located there. And the good thing about Suzanne, all these other podcast websites that all these shows are on, they're all listed. That's on Animal Advocates Radio. Isn't that wonderful?
That's wonderful.
Every one of them, because I went through them and checked, and I was like, look, all these shows are on here, each one of them. So you can go listen, follow me, comment, or whatever. Just like on this show, you can comment, they keep liking the show, because I'm still in the newbie level. Okay, I got some more hours to go before I go up another level. But listeners and stuff like that. But this is just so inspiring and uplifting getting on this Podbean this year. I mean, it's in this app. It's great. But anyway, I want to thank you all out there on the web that's listening, and hope you could come one day and join us into the chat room. And if you want to check out Suzana Gartner, she's on LinkedIn. She has a website because and she's awesome. And I'll keep on LinkedIn there, Suzanne. I keep sharing your stuff, and because it means so much. It's so important. All of it's important. It's not just not to look the other way and that's no big deal. But in order to see change, everyone, you got to take action. And a big shout out to my mother who's listening. Pat, aka Moose. She don't look like a moose, but that's another name for Mom. Love you, Mom. A beautiful woman inside and out. And I love her support. She's been listening to my shows for a long time, and then that is great. And yeah, I love her support and everything. So that's my mother and BFF also. So thank you, Mom, for listening in. Love you very much. And so everyone, I hope next Thursday it's going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Mountain, and 4 o'clock Pacific. Listening worldwide, everyone. We're going to have James Scott on. He's a newbie coming on. Okay, he's a campaign coordinator for Speak Up Wikiva, and we're going to be speaking about the black bear hunt here in Florida. I've already had one show for it this year. We got to stop it. Okay, it's very cruel. They're saying you can have up to 6 dogs attack these black bears. I think that's brutal. It's ugly and it's inhumane. Okay. And bow and arrows, and that's supposed to be in December. So everyone's fighting here in Florida, to ban it, and call Governor DeSantis and tell him to please stop the Florida bear hunt. And that's who's going to be our guest next week. I want to welcome him aboard, and hope you all join us next Thursday, okay? And please keep spreading the word. You could share these shows from the this chat room also. And also, once this show is published, all you that's following me will get a notification on your phone or your laptop or iPad, tablets, that it has been published. And then you can go ahead and share it anywhere you want to, so, because a lot of people will miss it. So it's best to get it out there again, to get the word out. But Susanna, thank you all so much. It's such an honor having you on. It's wonderful. I love it. I love this podcast.
Yeah, I love it too. You've energized me, all of you. I just feel so uplifted. My heart is warm to know that there are human beings like yourselves. I just want to thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this conversation with all of you. And Debbie, you're so uplifting. I just feel so energized.
Hey, that's what I try to do, bring the positivity in. Bring
Right.
the, that's my goal. Hey, let's talk positive because we're going to bring the negative into
Yeah,
the positive. It can be done, but
I
it
love
takes work and teamwork. Okay.
it. I know.
We cannot do without it. But I want to thank all you for tuning in and a wonderful 11th year anniversary for Voices Carry for Animals podcast. And we'll keep going. Okay. And I want to thank you, Mama Cat. Thank you for speaking on air. And Aloha, Harlan, thank you for talking on air and speaking. And Darla, you also. But go ahead, Mama Cat. You ready? Paw in hand.
Paw in hand, united we stand against all animal cruelty and neglect across the land. Good night, everybody.
Good
Have
night,
a safe
everyone.
4th of July.
Yeah, that's it. And be safe and protect your pets, okay? And may God bless you all. Good night, and hope you tune in next week.
Adopt, don't stop. Stay and neuter.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Voices Care for Animals podcast. Night, Mama Cat.
Good night, Debbie.
Big Mama Bear hugs to everyone.